Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Megan, and today I want to talk to you guys about snacks a little bit. What kind of snacks can you make at home? Well, you guys can make all sorts of snacks, I'm sure. I'm thinking more specifically, what's going into my snack cabinet, and what do we make at home? I say we because, quite honestly, since my youngest moved in full-time, she sort of took over the snack cabinet. And I've done a few things to make that a lot easier, so I didn't ask her to do that. She just jumped in and did it. How I'm trying to adjust, and hopefully you guys can give me some ideas on other ways to adjust, or some ideas for some things that might work for snacks. If you want to leave that down in the comments below, I'm open to ideas. Now, if you are new here, you probably don't realize, with the history of histamine intolerance and the MCAS stuff and the PCOS stuff, I also have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Those things all sort of play a little bit of a role in how I choose to eat. In that the PCOS, I'm trying to work on insulin resistance because that's the main cause of PCOS. And so I'm trying to keep my insulin low and manage my blood glucose levels. At the same time, I have some hypothyroid symptoms, but everything tests out okay. But my various care team members over the years have all been concerned about low carb. And I played that out when I tried to do paleo for a while. So I'm not terribly concerned about carbs in any of this. However, I am basically working through walking and I say calorie deficit, but at the same time, when I started losing weight, I tripled the amount of calories I was taking in. So my goal is more to get enough calories rather than reduce calories at the same time, if that makes sense. I had gone up based on I was only losing around about a pound a week. I've kind of been back and forth the last 2 months. And so I'm trying to get back on the downward trend again in a more stable way. So I'm trying to sort of overhaul my food stuff and get as much movement and exercise in as possible, even though we're having the worst winter we've had in a long time. And it's not even really that bad. I did walk 5 days last week. This week, in the last 7 days, I've walked 5 times outside, even in the ice and snow. Back to snacks. What does all this have to do with anything? I do have some goals. Everything I've read on PCOS, to lose weight, you need to up your protein. And when I started tracking food, I realized I'm really not getting enough protein most of the time. So I am trying to get higher amounts of protein. I don't have a strict gram goal, mainly because aiming for my goal weight in protein is daunting. I notice a large difference if I get above 100 grams of protein, so I am trying to definitely get at least 100 grams, but more is excellent as well. So I'm trying to include protein in each of these snacks. They don't all have it. I'll tell you that right now. I'm kind of giving you the where I'm at on snacks. Maybe that's good for you because you're not on a weight loss journey. But if you are, maybe you can get some ideas. Maybe you can give me some ideas and we can work that out. I am trying to include protein because that will help sort of level out the blood sugar spike if there are carbs in whatever I'm eating. And then sort of all over the place with calories in this as well. Most people would consider a snack to be lower calories than a meal. At the same time, if I'm struggling to eat like 400 or 500 calories in a meal, some of my snacks might be 300 calories and sort of become fourth meal, I guess you could say. I'm also trying to feel satisfied after I eat something. So if I'm craving something, I am more likely to eat a small portion of that thing than try to trick myself, I guess you could say. But at the same time, it's just like, man, I'd really like something sweet right now, or man, I need a little bit of salty something, or crunch, or chewy. I'm going to take that into account when I'm choosing what I'm going to snack on, but I'm trying not to break the bank on calories with all of it. So I kind of have a couple different categories of snack food. I have ingredients that can just be eaten straight. I have combinations of ingredients that if they're pre-mixed, make life lots easier. I have some things that you wouldn't necessarily think of snack food, but sometimes we do around here. The easiest place is what ingredients are coming in and how does that work with us? A few things that are just single ingredients that I will buy in, and usually since this whole weight loss thing has come up, it also is going to be pre-portioned. I know that when we went to the snack cabinet being pre-portioned, I am not the only one in the house that has been losing weight. Some of them weren't trying and have done really well. All right, so single ingredient items that can be eaten as a single ingredient as a snack. Pistachios. They are a low lectin, low oxalate. I think they are considered a nut. About a half cup in the shell is considered one serving, or I think it was 28 grams in MyFitnessPal if they were unshelled. 28 grams if you have already removed the shell is about 160 calories. I like the ones that are in the shell, and I buy those on Amazon. It's a brand called Wonderful. It's the cheapest I've found them. Peanuts. The peanuts that I buy are from Aldi's. They are roasted and have sea salt on them. Sea salt is a good antihistamine, if that is of concern to you. And then the roasting, I'm assuming that is denaturing some of the lectins, and that's why I don't react to peanuts. Because the 3 peanut items that I get are peanuts due by peanut butter, and I don't react to that. The regular does have sugar in it. I don't know if the crunchy does or not. I don't know. I get both because we've got one kid that likes crunchy and one kid that doesn't. So, The third type of peanut product that comes into our house, I had gotten a big thing of Naked PB, which is peanut butter powder. I don't know if it's actually sold as a protein supplement. It would be like the equivalent of PB2 if you've seen that. It doesn't have the chocolate in it or whatever. It's just plain peanut powder. I think 1 scoop is 6 or 7 grams of protein. That is helpful for getting the protein piece in. And all 3 of those, the regular peanuts, the peanut butter, as well as the peanut powder, have all started with roasted peanuts from what I've found in my research. The roasting will help break down some lectins. The salt helps as well with any histamine related issues from the lectins. And generally, I have not had problems with that. I don't know if I was when I first got diagnosed with histamine intolerance, because I did cut it out for probably about 6 months. But, try it yourself and see what works for you. Now, so you've got pistachios, peanuts. Pretzels is another one. I do not, stuff like peanut butter, I don't pre-dose or whatever. I don't have any small enough containers that makes much sense for me. But peanuts, one thing in our snack cabinet, we utilize 4-ounce jam jars and have some pre-done amounts and recipes that I have written in Sharpie on masking tape and stuck inside the door. That's one reason my youngest was able to just take over the snack cabinet and say, okay, I'm going to do this. She never really said that. She just does it. And we occasionally discuss where we're going to keep the empty jars, so that we can just recycle them instead of having to wash them every time. And when you're using them every single week, that if you're putting peanuts in the same thing, wash them occasionally. But I don't know. Maybe that sounds disgusting to you, but if I'm still using the same can of peanuts, I don't see much difference. So anyway, we will measure out on the scales 1 ounce of peanuts per thing. I haven't had pistachios since we worked out this system, so I had those last summer a lot. I don't think half a cup of pistachios will actually fit in a 4-ounce jam jar, but at the same time, that is theoretically half a cup. So I guess fill it to the brim and put the lid on? I don't know. I guess what I could do is I could shell them, see if that's about the right weight for the grams scale, and do that. I'll think on that, because I might be getting more pistachios next month. But then we do 1 ounce of peanuts and we just pre-portion them into jars. I have no idea how she's choosing what to mix other than, obviously if we're out of something, we don't have it to put in. And among those, we do have recipes for trail mix. And we do a couple different kinds of this. She will do some jars that are peanuts. Then she'll do some jars that are peanuts and raisins because turns out she likes raisins. Not great for my histamine people, but the kind of goal there is something that is a little bit sweet. So if you have something else that you like that is not the gummy dry, that might work better in terms of histamine. Raisins are typically gummy dry and you don't want that, but maybe you could toss in, I think I have seen dried blueberries and dried cherries that are more dried, or maybe you could break up some crispy dried apple chips and that would work for that little bit of sweet to mix with the salty. But again, you don't want the gummy dried apple chips or like the little squares. I know I've seen those where you can buy just the little gummy dried squares. You don't want those. Histamine will be able to be produced from the I don't know, it's some sort of an enzymatic reaction. Do your own research. When we first started doing the trail mix, I think I was actually doing 8-ounce jam jars on these because it's a little fluffy. And I was doing 1 ounce of peanuts. I was doing, I don't remember the gram weight, but I was doing half a serving of chocolate chips and half a serving of marshmallows. Marshmallows are one of those things that they are hit or miss with people. They are basically made with gelatin and sugar. So if you react to those two things, maybe they don't work. I react to sugar and I don't seem to react to marshmallows. But the goal here is pick some things that you don't react to and mix them together for the flavor combination you're kind of looking for. Another one of the items on the inside of the snack cabinet is Jell-O. Obviously, it's not kept in the snack cabinet because it has to be kept cold. But what I do most of the time, you'll buy a box of Jell-O mix or whatever it is from the store. I don't buy the sugar-free. If you would like to do that, that is fine. Please don't come at me for not doing that. But what I do, I take the box of Jell-O and I split it up into 4 different 4-ounce jam jars, heat up the water in the electric kettle, and while that's heating up, I'm also measuring out and adding collagen peptide powder. Now, collagen is one of those things that as a person with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it is a connective tissue order that affects collagen in my body. The way my first rheumatologist explained it was typically that like your body's made out of rubber and your body is made out of cheap rubber. So like it's the rubber band that's too elastic or breaking, you know? But it's one of those things where I've seen some doctors do presentations and say, taking collagen supplements is not helpful because your body doesn't process it right to begin with. So it's just overwhelmed with collagen it can't use. I've seen some people say, I get a lot of help from collagen, so I use it daily. So guess what I did? I'm like, well, I'll at least try it. I did choose collagen peptides because it's already broken down. One of the things that if you have any gut issues, which in my opinion, big portion of why I started having histamine problems was because of gut issues that I subsequently worked on healing. But one of the things with gut issues is you can't always break things down correctly. And I'm not sure that all of my digestive tract issues are fixed. The other thing is a question of they don't really know how Ehlers-Danlos works necessarily. They just know what the end line results are. So I don't, give my body the best options. I knew I was okay with gelatin, generally speaking, because I've used gelatin and stuff and not had reactions to that. So I could have just used gelatin. But I'm like, okay, collagen peptides. And if you collagen versus collagen peptides, there's different kinds. There's some are for this and some are I don't know. I think the one I got has all 4 kinds of collagen in it, or maybe because it's peptides, it doesn't, I don't know. I'm using it in the food that I eat. So I think it's 3 grams of the collagen to the little jars with the Jell-O powder and stir those up before I ever put the water in, because otherwise it turns into a gooey mess and you don't want that. That's the biggest tip I can give you for working with collagen peptide powder. And then I mix those 2 up in powder form, and then I add the water from the kettle and mix it up. And I only fill the things about halfway. That way I have more room to stir. And then I'll fill them up the rest of the way and put a lid on it. And then I can put those in the refrigerator. And I've got 3 little Jell-O cups that are really helpful if I'm looking for something sweet. They're actually less than 100 calories with the 3 grams of the collagen peptides and the Jell-O mix with its sweetness and flavor and whatever. It worked out to be 3.5 or 4 grams of protein for about 91 calories, which I think is pretty good, especially for something sweet. I do have problems where I just don't really get hungry. So sometimes it's hard for me to eat, especially in the mornings, but like I don't necessarily always drink this in the mornings. But if I'm wanting sort of more of a quasi meal / snack, something to, I've been making protein hot chocolate, and it starts with a base of store-bought hot chocolate. Nice, simple, you know, tear off the little thing, dump it in. I've tried making homemade hot chocolate mix in the past. I haven't found a recipe that I liked. You know, I think maybe that's because they tend to try and skip the sugar completely. Yeah, it's just not me. So anyway, I don't react to store-bought hot chocolate mix just straight as hot chocolate mix. But what I do to doctor it up, because, you know, that store-bought hot chocolate mix is 150 calories and not really any real nutrition. Just as a side note, the one from Aldi's is 140 per pouch, but you can get different amounts because like this Nestle, by the way, in case you're unaware, hot chocolate at Aldi is a seasonal item and they already don't have it in February. So anyway, this one from Nestle is only 100, but the one from Aldi's I think was 150, made with water. So I haven't gotten the protein hot chocolate video made. Sorry. So I'm going to really quick give you 3 different ways you can do this, okay? It involves a few different things. All of them have the hot chocolate powder mix from the store. Use what you like, you know, it'll affect your calories in the final product. The next thing I put in is 1 scoop of the Naked PB peanut butter powder. This gives it sort of a Reese's cup flavor. I don't mind it. If you don't like peanut butter, that might not be for you, but 1 scoop is 6 or 7 grams of protein. The packet from Aldi's has 1 gram of protein, I'm assuming from the milk powder. This one has less than 1 gram of protein. This is Our Family. It's the Martin's or Harding's store brand. If you are in the Midwest and have those stores available. Anyway, it's Our Family. It's 140 calories for a 1/4 cup of mix, and it has 2 grams of protein. And it's cheaper than the Nestle, by the way. I'm going to go with the canister. So that's 2 grams of protein from the mix. Then I believe it's 6 grams of protein from the scoop of Naked PB. So that's 8. I also use 12 grams of the collagen peptide powder. This one has a couple different things it does in here. I want to say 12 grams is 7 or 8 grams of protein. So it does help the protein content. It also, because marshmallows are made of gelatin and sugar, also makes it taste like you have melted marshmallows into your hot chocolate without having the excess sugar content of actually doing so. I like that. And also, if you, mix all of the powders up, first of all. And then I add about 1/4 cup of milk. You could leave this out. You could not. You do you. The 1/4 cup of milk, get it smooth. Because this mix of powders is kind of hard to get smooth. So you stir it all together so that you don't have big lumps of collagen junk. And then you mix in the milk. Get any remaining lumps out. Usually I find this is the peanut butter powder. That will add another 2 to 3 grams of protein. The milk that I get is whole milk, and it actually basically comes out to 1 gram per ounce. And this is where I'm going to divert a little bit. If you can't handle either the peanut butter powder or collagen powder, you could replace one of them by just making the whole thing with milk. You would get about the same amount of protein from replacing the water with milk. Might take an extra dish because you can't really put that in the electric kettle. So that would be one way to go and get approximately the same amount of protein. If you can manage homemade yogurt. Now, there used to be a type of yogurt starter. It was a low histamine variety. I don't remember the exact name. I haven't found anywhere to get it in the last probably 6 months or a year. And it does not last well. And when I say it doesn't last well, I'm talking it's moldy within a week. But, you know, if you have something to use that with, or you can get through it in that amount of time, that's great. And the only thing I can say in terms of why that was a lower histamine yogurt is because the strains that were in the starter, I'm probably going to get this wrong. I don't think that they necessarily produce histamine, but I don't think they produce histidine, so they don't ever convert to histamine while they're sitting in the refrigerator. I'm not sure. I am not an expert on any of that. Do your own research. I was trying different things. I was trying sourdough starter with the low histamine yogurt. I was trying yogurt with the low histamine yogurt. It didn't keep well. I do homemade yogurt because I have kids that are intolerant of dairy or sensitive to dairy, however you put it. They can do, like if I cook the dairy, it's generally okay. Honestly, they aren't eating the yogurt either. I can handle it moderation. So one of those things that you eventually get to the point of you're trying to reintroduce fermented foods to help your gut biome bounce back. But at the same time, you're trying to manage that with histamine levels. It's a tough one. Even at 4 years out, I'm a little skittish about yogurt. Like I said, I can do it in small quantities. Here's the thing. I can do it in small quantities, but is it a pain to do and work into a regular routine if I can't have it on a daily basis? And that answer is yes. So anyway, for me, that's one of those, it's a special thing when I use it. Now, the good thing about that is homemade yogurt does keep in the refrigerator for a really long time. Anyway, you've got your collagen, your peanut butter powder, your hot chocolate mix. They're all mixed up. You put the milk in. And I would say do a little bit, even if you're going to do the whole thing as milk instead of one of the powders. Mix the little bit of milk in, get it nice and smooth, and then you add your hot water or your hot milk or whatever you're going to add for that. All in all, the way I've been doing... the yogurt thing. Yeah. So instead of the quarter of a cup of milk, you can add in a quarter of a cup of Greek yogurt. And that will boost your protein to almost 30 grams of protein with the rest of it. I mean, I suppose you could do a quarter cup of milk or a quarter cup of homemade yogurt and then do the rest of it with hot milk. And that would boost it even more. And I suppose you could do that on top of the powders too, if you really wanted to. Anyway, all of them are going to affect what your calories are in the final product. I believe with the yogurt, it was closer to 350 calories. The way I make it with a quarter a cup of milk and then using hot water for the rest of it, it's about 292 calories. And then it was all milk. Well, it would depend on which powder you're replacing, because a cup of milk is about 150 calories compared to 60 or 70 for the peanut butter powder, or I think it's 45 for the collagen. Okay. I will have hopefully put all of these recipes on the screen and they will be in the description box. So you don't have to mess with it. Just go screenshot the frickin' description box and you're good. Other things, carrots and peanut butter. One of those things that I will have snack food wise and just measure out is pretzels. And what I found with that was that I would go past and grab a handful at a time. And that's actually not a full serving. It was about half a serving. So that's what I prepackaged pretzels in. And so I'm learning that I kind of have to do the same thing with carrots or celery. If I'm going to cut up carrots and have them in the refrigerator, which I have found works just as well as having baby carrots. If I just take the time to prep them ahead of time and have them in a food storage thing, I'll grab a handful and I can have that with a couple tablespoons of peanut butter. And what I'm finding is I grab about 65 grams of carrots, 4 or 5 carrot sticks. Not a ton, but they're also full of fiber, as well as the protein from the peanut butter helps keep me full, and I'm satisfied with that. Could I eat more? Yes. Do I need to? No. So 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, I believe, was about 170 calories. I can't see the thing from here. I believe the peanut butter is about 170 calories for 2 tablespoons. Obviously, look at whatever kind of peanut butter you have. Another option I do is I'll grab an entire stalk of celery off of the little bunch, and I can use either peanut butter or ranch or something like that. So with carrots and celery, obviously, if you want to cut up the celery and have that in the fridge with the carrots, totally can do that. If you want something lower calorie than the peanut butter, a couple of other options that I can see that would still include the protein. So number one, when I was trying to switch over to that kind of thing as snack food, I was eating it with ranch. Ranch is not really all that high calorie, as long as you don't do a high quantity of it. If you are eating a quarter of a cup at a time, okay, that might be different. What I found was for me to, have enough to put down a stalk of celery, which would be like if you cut it up into, little sticks, probably somewhere between 3 and 6, depending on if you cut them in half. I wasn't using a full serving. I was using 1 tablespoon, which is half a serving, and not that bad. It doesn't have a lot of protein in it, but if you can handle like the homemade yogurt, that would be one of those things. Our Tribe of Mini has an excellent ranch seasoning recipe, and have ranch seasoning that I can add in, and I would just stick that into a portion of yogurt for a ranch dip rather than like something that I would just pour on. Honestly, you could probably do that with the peanut butter powder. You're going to cut out most of the fat that way. Obviously, there's still fat in the yogurt, but you would have the high impact of the yogurt on protein as well as the high protein of the peanut butter powder, and you would still get the peanut butter flavor with a little bit of a tang. Honestly, from what I've heard, you can't really make the peanut butter powder ahead in that kind of form, and it's just a pain in the butt, so I don't normally do it. And that gets back to that whole thing of it's not something I can do on a daily basis anyway thing. I do sometimes buy pudding. I buy pudding because that's what my dairy sensitive one can eat. Whereas if I was to make instant pudding at home, she couldn't have it without taking a Lactaid. I could do peanut butter powder with the milk and the pudding mix, and that would boost the protein some. But I would kind of do that in the same way I do the Jell-O, where mix it and pre-portion it into 4-ounce jam jars. It's mixed, it's packaged, and it's a set quantity. That's the other nice thing. If you automatically know what the calories is, you can put it in as a My Food or My Recipe in MyFitnessPal, like we talked about last week. And then, okay, trail mix. It's in my recipes, and it's just always going to be the same thing. It's in there as 1 serving, and it's in your little masking tape recipes. Does anybody else do that? If you're feeling rich, another one is hard-boiled eggs. If you don't have histamine problems, you might like pickled eggs for a different flavor. When I was growing up, when my mom would make hard-boiled eggs, and she wouldn't just make hard-boiled eggs typically unless we were going to have egg salad or something, or pea salad. She always put 1 or 2 eggs in the pea salad. And now that I think about it, that was often when she would wind up making pickled eggs. And she would do like beets with the eggs, and then she would make a mix of equal parts vinegar, sugar, and water. Or in the case of pickled eggs, she would use the beet juice. That way it flavored the eggs. If you have oxalate issues, just don't do that. The beets are high oxalate. If you have histamine issues, not a great one because the vinegar is high histamine. It's a landmine. Serious landmine. But I didn't know what I didn't know before I was diagnosed. You know, it is what it is. But if you're feeling rich, hard-boiled eggs is a good one. They don't take a terribly long time. 4 minutes on high in the Instant Pot typically works well for us, and then just run cold water over them, and they peel really easy. Other things that don't really require making: apples, bananas, leftovers. That's another one. We'll do leftovers. If you wind up where you can't eat a large meal, you guys know I highly recommend the 4x6x2 food storage containers. And that's actually what I typically have my carrot sticks in as well. But for the leftovers, I recommend putting single serve portions in there and then freezing them. If you do that, you could do one of two things. You could just pre-portion all of them in slightly smaller quantities if you find that you're not eating a full portion at a time. Or you could do some separate. You could have meal-sized portions in some, and then you could have snack-sized portions in some, and just do like a half a portion. Or maybe you do like a little portion of this, and then when you have some leftover protein, you put that in there so that overall you have almost a mini meal. I don't know. It's an idea. Cereal is another option for pre-portioning so that you get the right amount. You know, what cereal? I don't know. What do you like? I mean, theoretically, Cheerios are not great for me because it's oats, and I can dry pressurize oats. I'm not dry pressurizing Cheerios, and I'm really not even dry pressurizing oats anymore. But then something like, maybe you could make some tuna salad, pre-portion it into little 4-ounce jam jars or 8-ounce jam jars. You could stick tuna salad, stick some carrot or celery sticks in there to use as a utensil. High protein. It kind of negates the need for any dip. Cucumber slices is another one for the just, nice, easy, cut it up and eat it. Around here, we used to eat cucumber slices with Western dressing or with ranch dressing. Anymore, what we typically do, salt and pepper. Not sure. One of my kids started that. It is pretty good with salt and pepper. As far as where I'm going from here, I would like to figure out ways to boost the amount of protein. I heard somewhere that ideally you're wanting foods to be, I want to say 10% protein from the calories. But basically, if it's 100 calories, you want it to have 10 grams of protein. And I don't know that any of this really hits that, because a lot of them are hard-boiled eggs, I guess, would be close. They're almost $1 an egg around here, so we aren't really doing that right now. But that's about 7 grams for 72 calories. Actually, the protein hot chocolate comes close to that, because that's about 292, I think 24 grams of protein. So it's not quite there, but it is pretty close. Anyway, if you have some high protein snacks, especially if they're low lectin and low histamine, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I would love to hear what they are. If you have ideas for what you want me to test next, drop those down below too. I think I will see you guys next week.